Well, the news that we touched on it yesterday a little bit in the podcast, but as the news from the comments by the Orange Ape as appearing in this new book by Bob Woodward, it is just astonishing, and is so bad, especially the part about the coronavirus. I understand that Trump is a lying, evil bastard, but this morning, I was watching some of Morning Joe on MSNBC, and some of the comments by the guests about how Trump deliberately and consciously lied in order to cover his own ass, were concerned knowing that this pandemic was easily transmissible, that it would affect all different age groups, that something had to be done to interfere with the transmission, to stop the transmission. And this rotten, murderous bastard, Donald Trump, lies in order to make himself look good. And I'm sitting there watching this morning, and I'm considering the thousands of people who have died because of him. And it's just, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I could feel this rage boiling up inside of me. And this was before 9 o'clock this morning, so not a good time to feel rage. And then what really upset me was the hot tears that started to form in my eyes about what I was hearing. Tears of rage, pain, anguish, sadness for the people who died because of this bastard. And then I think about the Republicans in the Senate who will support this murderous son of a bitch no matter what he does. And I think about his cult followers. I mean, here is the evidence for these people who worship Trump, that Trump kills them. It was not a good way to start the day. Trump knew it was deadly. He knew it was airborne. He lied about it anyway. New York Times editorial board has this morning on February 7th. February 7th. During a taped interview with Bob Woodward, Trump acknowledged that the coronavirus could be transmitted through the air, that it was very dangerous, and that it would be difficult to contain. He told Woodward, quote, "This is deadly stuff," end quote. He also said this, quote, "You just breathe the air, and that's how it's passed," end quote. So despite the ape's understanding of the severity of this disease and the way it's transmitted, over the next month in 5 cities around this country, the ape held these large indoor rallies, which were attended by thousands of his supporters. This is the mark of a homicidal monster. And then the ape spent weeks insisting in public that the coronavirus was no worse than a seasonal flu. Remember what he said? It would disappear when April came. And in March, he said, "We're doing a great job." Now, the editorial board of the Times asked a question for which the answer to which I don't give a damn what it is. But here's their question. Why lie to the American people? Why, as this filthy administration accuses the Chinese government of doing, lying, why lie to the world about the severity of what was declared a pandemic only days later? Why? Because it's Trump. He is a murderous psychopath. Oh, toxic narcissist. Oh, big deal. This son of a bitch is a danger to everybody to everybody on earth. But Trump's answer, he told Bob Woodward on March 19th, quote, well, I wanted to play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic. End quote. Create a panic? Look at some of his political advertising right now, designed to create a panic. Look how he's trying to scare the bejesus out of the white women who live in the suburbs. Ooh, MS-13's moving into your neighborhood. Ooh, there'll be no zoning. Ooh, Joe Biden's going to move in all the undesirables. Ooh, run, get your gun. He didn't want to create a panic. Right. So the orange ape, and so many of his supporters, if not all of them, and his political allies, did play down the severity of COVID-19 and did criticize the public health measures that were attempting to be deployed to slow or halt the spread of this killer disease. But Trump and all of his filthy little inner circle, including that corrupted, filthy family of his and his cabinet members, what did they do? They made sure that the coronavirus would spread faster and make sick or kill more people in the United States than in any other of our peer nations. That's what Trump and his filthy family and his filthy cabinet, that's what they have given us. If the United States had the same coronavirus fatality rate, not the number of fatalities, but the rate per 100,000 population as Canada, more than 100,000 Americans would still be alive today. And they're not, because of Trump and his filthy family, his murderous goddamn cabinet, all of these people who are sworn to this dictatorial bastard, no matter what he does. Now, as the Times editorial board charitably puts it, most of the responsibility for the fatal mishandling of the pandemic lies with the president. But with every lie out of this bastard's mouth, every lie on his Twitter feed, how many members of his administration and his filthy family who knew better stayed silent? All of them. That's how many. And then in addition, because the ape is the ape, he has repeatedly tried to muzzle and sideline the scientists and the health officials who knew what was going on and disagreed with his bullshit assessments. And so often, Trump would replace these qualified people with morons willing to sing the ape's praises and pretend like, oh, everything is just fine. Now go die. Now go get sick. Granny, goodbye. Grandpa, adios. Teenagers, middle-aged people, frontline workers, doctors, nurses, au revoir. Do svidaniya. The editorial board writes, so it was that the president's coronavirus task force revised guidelines on testing for asymptomatic people. The so-called coronavirus task force, you don't need to be tested. If you don't have symptoms, you don't need to be tested. When the science was saying you can be a carrier, you can be a super spreader with no symptoms. But Trump, this filthy bastard? Meanwhile, the task force's leading infectious disease doctor, probably the leading doctor on earth, Anthony Fauci, was having surgery. That's when this was announced. When Fauci was under an anesthesia, having surgery, for Christ's sake. So it is that in the pandemic's 7th month that Scott Atlas, a neuroradiologist with no background in infectious disease outbreaks, is arguing that it's not the government's job to stomp out the coronavirus. It's not the government's job. Well, then whose is it? Who is this asshole, Scott Atlas? Meanwhile, the CDC, crickets. Not a goddamn word from Dr. Redfield. Nothing from these people. How can you people who swore an oath, 2 oaths, one symbolic and one constitutional, Hippocratic oath and an oath to defend and protect the Constitution from enemies, foreign, domestic. How can you people maintain any kind of self-respect or dignity after what you have participated in? God damn all of you. Oh my God. So Trump's mental illness and laughably his lack of leadership has made this whole thing, the suffering in this country, greater. He's made the death toll higher. He's made the economic costs more severe in the short term and the long term, and it's still going on, and it's going to continue to go on. So when the ape wasted time on refusing the testing or the contact tracing or providing personal protection equipment for everybody in this country, when he failed to make or execute a clear and effective plan, when he repeatedly belittled and dismissed the mask mandates and suggested to his sick, effed up followers to liberate Michigan, and then the beer-bellied, ridiculous-looking assholes who comprise his stormtroopers show up with semi-automatic military-style assault rifles? Are you kidding me? Oh, my God. But when all that was going on, all the distractions that this filthy orange ape created, Trump knew the virus was deadly and airborne. He knew that millions of people would get sick. He knew that tens of thousands would die. As stupid and ignorant as he is, he knew it. He knew it. And furthermore, Bob Woodward's tapes of this orange ape talking as though, I don't know, who does this except a toxic, a malignant narcissist who thinks to himself, okay, I'll go ahead and talk to a journalist and I'll tell him this stuff because I can control the journalist. I can control the narrative. So I can say anything I want to. Only an ignorant, toxic bastard like Trump could possibly think that way. And thank goodness he did. So the tapes make clear that the ape and members of his administration failed to act behind the scenes based on what they knew at the time. So here we are, almost 200,000 people in this country have died. Hundreds of thousands more have suffered grave illnesses. And those illnesses often are followed by a recovery of sorts, a slow, hard recovery, and in some cases, permanent disability, thanks to this monster, the ape. Tens of millions of people have lost their jobs. Millions more are on the cusp of losing their homes, either through a mortgage default or rent default. School systems, elder care networks are struggling to function. The economy is in tatters. And this dictatorial, totalitarian, fascist wannabe pig, Donald Trump, is still in office. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.